are in our Itasca vineyard. We started planting this one 6 years ago. This Itasca was developed by Peter Hempstead when he was at the University of Minnesota. It has a very nice, it was nice dry white wine.
Well, I can't believe the size of the leaves. Are they always like that?
For Itasca, each grapevine has a little bit different color and a little bit different leaf shape. The Itasca has this nice big size.
So when it has a big leaf like that, does this one tend to yield more?
No, they yield about the same. Some varieties do yield more. Our Marquette is always one for us that just doesn't have the tonnage that it gets. But Frontenac Gris is another variety that was developed by the University of Minnesota, and we get quite a bit of tonnage out there for our Frontenac Gris. We started with our first 10 acres. We started with 5 the first year. We planted Brianna, Frontenac Gris, Marquette, and we started with a couple little table grapes too, which are seedless, because at the time we thought it'd be fun if we had some seedless grapes and we could get going and we could sell it at the farmer's market.
And I noticed that you have a lot of clover here.
Clover just is a good ground cover, helps take out the nitrogen, but also we do have bees on property, and the bees like the clover.
Okay. You don't have to fertilize grapes.
We do once in a while, we can add a little bit of fertilizer next to them. Our first couple years we had so much we didn't have to. Now that they're taking that out, we do fertilize, we do some spray fertilizing on the vines as well. So
when do you prune?
We prune, so there's a couple different things of pruning. You prune in the winter after, usually you don't want to go, you want to have them all pruned back before they bud out. So we start February, March, want to be done by April 1st. All this vigor is pruned off in the winter.
So it has put on all this growth just this one season?
Mm-hmm, yep.
Then when do you start harvesting?
We usually start harvesting the end of August, September, and October. It just depends on the season. Some varieties come sooner. You leave your reds in the ground. You don't harvest them as soon. Just trying to get that acidity level. The plant will tell you, the grapes will tell you, we start testing them. And you want your sugar, your Brix, and your acidity levels. There's some varieties we have to harvest by hand, but most we have a machine that harvests them. When we have 23 acres, it takes a long time, and then trying to find the people to pick through there. So yes, a harvester is, and plus our production is right here on site, so we don't have to travel. We just bring it right away to production. And then it goes through the process. We'll put them in a crusher destemmer that takes out all the stems and pushes them through. That becomes a juice. We'll put them in our press.
Do you have to worry about the birds getting after your crop?
Yes, we have to worry about birds in the vineyard. They like the nice, sweet, juicy grapes. So what we'll use is we use lasers. And the lasers, we'll use them, they go during the day and at night. They just go through and make a little pattern. We set it up in the vineyard, and that will scare the birds away. Some of the worst predators, we have a lot of raccoons where we're at. And they will go through and eat out and clean out the vines. So we have that. Also, we have deer. As you're coming in, you'll see our deer fences. They are more when the buds just to come out, the little greens is when we have the deer pressure the most. We have used the netting. It's just the labor intense to get the netting on and off. And most of the time, by the time we get the nets off to harvest them, it's that day. And our kids, most of the high school kids and the others are back in school already, so we're lacking our labor for that. So the lasers have kind of helped do that.
And they do a good job?
They do a good job.
Do you have to reprogram them so the birds don't get used to the pattern?
Yep, we reprogram and we set where we want it and pressures. One laser will cover about 4 to 5 acres, just depending on its location. So.
Okay. Then for the grapevines, do you plant more each year?
We haven't, we've tried to plant some, it's just so labor intensive. We are growing, we'll be adding more. We just pulled out a couple of acres that we'll be adding some more back in.
Is there a life expectancy of the grapevines?
They keep growing until they could be frost damage or they could be winter kill in there. So we've had some that we planted in 2007. So sometimes if you get something dies up above, we have suckers on the bottom, just like you do on a tree. So we'll train up that sucker and start a whole nother one. So
now, Thank you for telling me all about here, but can I see where the grapes go to after they're harvested?
Yes.
Scott, can you please describe the process that the grapes go through after they're harvested and you bring them in here?
Yeah, so it's the day of harvest. It's exciting. So we have the bins we put in the vineyard the night before, and we have a vehicle forks that will drive around with the bins to fill with grapes, and we use a mechanical harvester. So the harvester shakes the vines, and the grapes fall off the stems into buckets that travel on a chain and dump onto a conveyor, and a series of conveyors dumps it into the bin that is in the next row. So when the bin is full, it's set on a trailer and it's brought up here. So it dumps it into a destemmer, and it separates any mog, any matter other than grapes that is in the bin. The destemmer also cracks the berry open, and then the whites are pumped into the press, and the press squeezes them with a big airbag, and it drops down into a pan it's got a screen, so it's just letting the juice go through, mostly just juice, and then we pump it from the pan into one of our tanks. So this is our primary fermentation tank. It's all measured in liters. So this is a 50, 75, and 100 hectoliter tanks. Everything that comes in is tracked from the vineyard, where Jenny talked earlier about pH, acid, and sugar. Those are tracked in the vineyard, and then we bring those in, and we're measuring those all the way through the fermentation process. So we introduce yeast into the liquid, which is grape juice, and the yeast starts to eat the sugar. And the byproduct of the yeast is alcohol. But we're keeping track of what's in that tank by the number on the tank, the chemistry of the wine, the gallons and the amount of wine. And every step through the fermentation process, we will lose a little bit. So we need to log that, because the government keeps track of every drop we have, and if something gets spilled, so we have to track all of that in our records. As you go through fermentation, there's different things that are happening. And the winemaker's job is not to screw up what the God has given us. So you have to look at the gases that are being released. There's a lot of CO2. So they're keeping track and monitoring everything that's going on with the fruit. I would say 80% of a winemaker's job is to clean. We're always cleaning, we're always sterilizing. You can have no bacteria in the process, so we're always going through the cleaning process. We have 2 people doing that. Probably could use 3, but it's you have what you have. Yeah.
So then does the wine go from the big containers here into barrels then?
There's 2 ways to look at that. With the reds, we bring the grapes in and we crack them, run it through the destemmer, and put them in a vessel to ferment with the skins and the seeds. The color from red wine comes from the skins. So that period of time that it's fermenting on the skins, we're extracting color and tannin, which is plant structure, and complexity in a red wine comes from the skins. So the whites will come in and be squeezed away from the skins right away, and juice will be fermented. With the reds, you're going to put that in a fermentation vessel. Then you're going to take that red and you're going to squeeze it away from the skins and put it into barrels. Red wines will mature in a barrel for anywhere from usually 9 months is the shortest, up to 3 years. If you've ever tasted a wine and said, "Oh, that's really dry," that's because it has a lot of tannin. So by going into a barrel, over time, those tannins become more relaxed, and so it becomes smoother as you drink it. So a white wine will spend months in a tank and during the process, doing different things to it. So we'll start usually bottling whites in the spring or during the winter after the harvest. The reds that we're putting in a bottle today were harvested in 2020. 2019. We just bottled a 2017 Cabernet recently because it just needed more time in the barrel to help the acid and the tannin become more smooth, so it's easier to drink.
Do you use all of your wine here on site, or do you sell some off-site too?
We started growing grapes, and the first harvest was 2009, and we sold a lot of all of our grapes to other wineries. And then when we started keeping our white wines in 2014, we didn't know what to expect, so we did buy a little bit of fruit that year. But today we grow about 40 tons of our own grapes, and we're going to bring 40 tons from surrounding vineyards. And then we'll bring usually about 40 tons in from the West Coast. So we buy a lot of grapes from Washington. We buy a little bit from California because they're grapes that we can't grow here.